This is an analysis from Alpha Business Media. Welcome back to the deep dive. We are jumping straight into what is really a critical business alert today. If you're operating in the financial sector, especially in places with evolving digital markets like, say, Nepal, this deep dive is mandatory listening.
It really is. We're looking at a set of sources that essentially lay out an existential warning for any financial institution that still sees cybersecurity as a checklist item for the IT department.
The conversation is just dangerously outdated.
It is. A lot of places are clinging to strategies that are basically obsolete.
So let's cut right to the chase, to the really terrifying figure here. The sources are very clear on this. By 2026, the probability of a single ransomware event costing a bank over $5 million, it's a statistical likelihood.
It's not a what if anymore, it's a when. And honestly, that $5 million figure feels a bit conservative.
How so?
Because it's not just the ransom. You have to factor in the regulatory fines, which are inevitable, the huge recovery costs, and then the silent killer capital flight.
Your high net worth clients pulling their money out?
Immediately. It's a catastrophic, instantaneous blow to the balance sheet.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our mission today is to understand why the old defenses, the firewalls, the antivirus software we've all relied on, have become what one of our sources calls a Maginot Line strategy.
It's a great analogy. It looks impressive, but the enemy just goes around it. The whole game has changed.
And that changes what exactly?
Well, the key shift that executives really need to grasp is that the threat has moved from technology to psychology. It's no longer about a brute force hack trying to knock down a firewall.
Right.
It's a psychologically sophisticated AI-generated phishing attack. And it's not targeting the whole company. It's targeting one single, maybe mid-level employee who has access to the core banking system, or even worse, the SWIFT network.
Which brings us to the anatomy of one of these next-generation heists. When you say AI-driven social engineering, I think a lot of people picture a slightly smarter spam email, but this is something else entirely.
Oh, it's a profound evolution. These aren't the old mass-market emails with, typos and weird grammar. Our sources are calling them masterpieces of social engineering, automated and scaled.
So how does the AI get that good? What's it feeding on to create something so convincing?
It starts with intense reconnaissance. The AI will identify a high-value target, let's say a manager in the Treasury Department, someone with the right access.
Okay.
Then it just ingests everything, every bit of public data. LinkedIn profiles, social media, work emails that have been published somewhere, press releases, and, this is the crucial part, data from past breaches that show internal communication styles.
So it's building a complete psychological and professional profile before it even makes a move.
Precisely. It learns that person's communication style. Is he formal? Does he use abbreviations? It learns his work cadence. It knows he never checks his personal email before 5:30, which makes 4:45 p.m. the perfect time to send an urgent work request.
And cognitive resistance is at its lowest.
Exactly.
So walk me through it. What does that Treasury manager actually see on his screen?
He sees a perfect email, flawlessly written. It seems to come from, say, the CFO. And it mentions something that's fabricated but totally plausible, like a confidential M&A pre-funding request that needs immediate action.
The urgency is the weapon.
It's the key.
Yeah.
It makes him bypass normal procedure. He sees the CFO's name. It's a high-stakes topic. The day is ending. So he clicks.
And he lands on a login portal.
A pixel-perfect replica of the bank's internal portal. He enters his credentials, and that's it. The human element is compromised. Not by a virus, but by deception.
And once they have those credentials, the goal is always the same.
The goal is the SWIFT network. It's the holy grail, as you said. It's the circulatory system of global finance.
And we have a case study for this, don't we?
We do. The 2016 Bangladesh bank heist. $81 million stolen through fraudulent SWIFT transactions. The scary thing is, what took a sophisticated state-level actor to pull off in 2016?
Can now be automated.
It can be automated. The tools are cheaper, they're faster, and they're available. The threat is just so much bigger now.
But the attacker doesn't just grab the money and run. They move laterally inside the network first. Why the patience?
It's about maximizing the payout and minimizing their risk. They spend weeks, sometimes, just watching. Study internal procedures, payment approval workflows, transaction limits.
So they can make their fraudulent transfers look completely legitimate.
Exactly. They learn what slips through automatically versus what needs a manual sign-off. They might even do a few small, real-looking transfers just to test the system.
And then the main event.
Then the main event. A rapid-fire series of large, swift transfers, timed perfectly for, say, the beginning of a long holiday weekend, to maximize the delay before anyone can try to recall the funds.
And the ransomware part of it, the thing that gets the headlines, that's just a distraction.
It's a brilliant and brutal diversionary tactic. They deploy the encryption, the million-dollar ransom demand, after the funds have already been siphoned out via SWIFT.
So while the IT team is scrambling to deal with the visible crisis,
They're burning precious hours, hours that are not being spent tracing and trying to claw back those SWIFT transfers. The ransom is just noise. The real damage is already done. The money is gone.
that is terrifyingly smart. So if the threat has evolved this much, why are so many executives still clinging to the old ways? What's the fundamental miscalculation of risk?
It's the castle and moat model. This is the legacy, thinking that if you build a big enough wall, a strong enough firewall, everything on the inside is automatically safe. It's trusted.
But the perimeter is gone, isn't it?
It is functionally dissolved. I mean, think about it. Cloud platforms, remote workers on home Wi-Fi, third-party vendors plugging into your systems, your ATM network, your software providers. The inside is just as hostile as the outside now.
And this gets to the idea of the compliance illusion. Our sources talk about this in the context of new guidelines, like those from the Nepal Rashtra Bank, the NRB.
And look, those NRB guidelines are absolutely necessary. They're a good thing. They mandate board oversight, incident response plans. They raise the baseline for the whole sector.
But there's a trap.
There's a huge trap. For a busy CEO, it is so tempting to see the completion of that regulatory checklist as the end of the story. The internal audit team says you're compliant, so the board thinks the risk is handled.
The checkbox is ticked, so we can move on.
Exactly. But compliance just verifies the existence of a control, not its effectiveness. A checklist confirms you have a firewall. It doesn't test if that firewall can stop a sophisticated AI-generated attack.
And how do the global leaders do it differently?
Well, you look at a place like the Monetary Authority of Singapore, they've moved way past checklists. They mandate red teaming exercises. They literally pay ethical hackers to try and break in and steal money to test the actual defenses, not just the paperwork.
That's a huge difference. Let's go back to that $5 million number, because breaking it down really shows why this is a C-suite problem, not an IT bill.
Right, there are 4 categories. Category 1 is the obvious one, direct financial loss. That's the stolen SWIFT funds. Let's say $3 million plus the ransom itself, maybe another $1.5 million.
So that's $4.5 million right out of the gate.
Gone. Then comes category 2, recovery costs. This is the cleanup. You need expensive international forensic investigators. You have to rebuild huge parts of your IT system. You need crisis PR, lawyers.
No.
That's another $1 million, easily.
We're already way over $5 million.
And we're not done. Category 3, regulatory penalties. The NRB has to step in. They impose massive fines for negligence. They might even demand you raise more capital, restricting your growth.
But it's the last category that's the real killer.
Category 4, unquantifiable reputational collapse. This is the existential threat. In the market where digital trust is everything, one big heist can trigger a digital bank run.
Customers just flee.
High net worth clients, corporate accounts. They're gone overnight. Your share price collapses. Your ability to raise capital is crippled. That trust can take decades to rebuild.
So the answer can't be a bigger moat. It has to be a completely different philosophy. This brings us to zero trust architecture, or ZTA.
Right. And it gets thrown around as a buzzword. But the philosophy is actually very simple. It's never trust, always verify.
What does that mean?
It means you assume the network is already compromised. You assume the enemy is already inside the walls. Therefore, no user and no device is trusted by default, even if they're logging in from an office computer.
So how does that work in practice? Am I just typing in passwords all day long?
No, it's mostly automated. But the system is constantly re-verifying and reauthorizing you for every single resource you try to access. Getting into your email is one level of verification. Accessing the core banking system that requires a much higher level of scrutiny.
Okay, so let's play it out. Our treasury manager gets that perfect phishing email. How does ZDA stop the attack?
It stops it at multiple points. First, when he clicks the link and tries to log in, the ZTA system checks the device's security posture. Is this computer fully patched? Is it connecting from a normal location? If anything is off, access is flagged or just denied.
Okay, hurdle 1. But let's say the attacker gets the credentials anyway.
Hurdle 2 is mandatory multi-factor authentication. A real ZTA system requires that push notification to a registered physical device, like a phone. The remote attacker doesn't have that, so they're stopped right there.
But what if they get past that? They're inside with legitimate credentials.
This is the critical part, microsegmentation. The network isn't one big open space. It's divided into tiny, sealed-off digital compartments. So the compromised credentials might get them into the manager's email, but that's it. It's a digital dead end. They can't jump from the email server over to the Swift system.
If they can't move laterally, the whole heist fails.
It's aborted. The system sees this anomalous behavior. A user trying to access the Swift system at 2 a.m. from a new IP address, and it just automatically blocks it and sends up a red flag. It's proactive denial, not reactive cleanup.
Let's talk about the cost, though. The number you mentioned, around $2 million spread over a few years, is still a big number for a lot of banks. Isn't there a risk this just helps the biggest banks get safer while everyone else is left vulnerable?
That's a really fair question, and the sources do tackle it. They frame the cost not as an expense, but as an investment in survival.
The ROI calculation.
Exactly. That $2 million, or NPR 150 to 250 million, is a multi-year strategic investment. And you're weighing that against a potential single-day loss event of $5 million, or NPR 665 million, plus all the reputational damage we just talked about.
The cost of doing nothing is far higher.
It's 5 times higher statistically. When you look at it that way, ZTA has one of the best ROIs you can find. It turned cybersecurity from a cost center into a real competitive advantage.
So this all paints a picture of two very different futures for the financial sector as we head towards 2026.
It does. The first future is the path of inertia. Banks stick with the compliance-based model, and eventually the inevitable happens. A high-profile digital heist, public panic, a digital bank run. And then the regulators are forced to bring down the hammer with really restrictive innovation-killing rules for everybody.
And the second path.
That's the proactive leadership path. A group of forward-thinking banks sees the writing on the wall. They make the shift to zero trust. They invest in continuous realistic training. And by 2026, they actually weaponize their security posture.
What does that mean?
It means they use it as a selling point. They attract the best corporate clients because they can prove their defenses are modern and robust. Security becomes a reason customers choose them.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener, the executive who needs to get this right?
I think the core lesson is that in our digital economy, trust is the ultimate currency. And you don't get that trust from a compliance checklist. You buy it with preventative architectural rigor.
And here is the hard truth, the provocative thought we want to leave you with. The greatest vulnerability in banking today is not technological. The tools to defend ourselves exist. The vulnerability is a failure of imagination in the C-suite.
That's it right there. The sources are unanimous on this point. First $5 million breach. It won't be a failure of firewalls. It will be a failure of leadership. Senior executives have to understand the mechanics of AI phishing and the principles of zero trust with the same fluency they discuss a loan portfolio. That fluency is now, quite simply, the price of survival.